Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar on psychosocial recovery coaching. My name's Rebecca and I manage Proveda's mental health team, which consists of the Way Back New South Wales, which is a suicide recovery program, hoarding and squalor, GP social work and the Dementia Alliance team too. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about recovery coaching, and we've got three specialists from our team here today. Proveda previously, just a bit of background, has a 30-year history of a whole range of community services, including aged care and NDIS coordination. And our psychosocial recovery service sits in the NDIS service space. Prior to introducing you to our psychosocial recovery coaches, Trent, Deb and Aisha, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we all gather today and pay my respects to their elders past and present. And I would also like to acknowledge people in our community with a lived experience of mental health, drug and alcohol concerns, and suicide, and those who care for them when they need it and love them all the time. So here on this slide, there's a list of all the programs that is provided by Proveda. So we've got home care packages, NDIS support coordination, NDIS psychosocial recovery coaching, again, which we're talking about today, mental health support, the Way Back New South Wales, GP social work, hoarding and squalor support, clinical care assessments, dementia advisory service, end of life education, and our fantastic volunteer program and the Belong Club as well, which is all listed on our website, and if for further information on all those services and programs. Thank you for joining us today, and I would like now to hand you over to our first recovery coach, Trent.
All right, thanks, Beck, and thanks everyone for coming along today to learn about recovery coaching. Our first slide discusses who exactly is eligible at Proveda for recovery coaching. So you'll need to be between 18 to 65 years old. You'll need to have access to the NDIS scheme with an accepted psychosocial disability, and also have recovery coaching funded in your plan. So our main mission is to support the participants to regain control of their life, return to optimal well-being, and progress towards maximizing their potential. So essentially, we really want to see participants not only reach a stable sense of well-being, but also progress on and achieve things that they might not have thought possible. So these are the key theoretical principles of recovery coaching that underpin our work as coaches. Firstly, we have recovery-oriented practice. So this involves focusing on the strengths and abilities of the participant rather than solely their diagnosis. So example, for if someone is an amazing musician, we might look at setting goals that revolve around music in the community with friends, or finding work relating to playing music. A big part of building someone's confidence is to try and focus in on what they can do and build from there rather than only focusing on what the barriers are. Next, we have person-centered approach. So this involves focusing on the strengths and abilities of the participant. Oh no, wait, I'll come back. Next, we have person-centered approach. So this means that the participants are always at the center of everything we do in the coaching process, and their needs and preferences are always considered. Next, we have empowerment. So the coach works to empower the participants by helping to build their confidence, self-esteem, and sense of control over their life. This might look like making sure a participant has choice and control of their care, providing positive encouragement and feedback, or supporting to set goals and reach goals consistently. Then we have a collaborative approach. So the coach and participant should always work together as equal partners, with the coach providing guidance and support while respecting the participant's autonomy. So again, we want to help provide support and guidance, but we are really looking to make sure that things move at the participant's pace and the driving decisions are always made by them. And lastly, we have holistic perspective. So us as coaches are always going to consider all aspects of the participant's life, which could include their physical, emotional, social, and spiritual well-being. So this slide is going into a little more detail on how we would work with our participants day to day. In our first meetings, we'll be looking to build trust and rapport. So we might discuss our background, disclose our experiences that may be relevant to the participant. We might use open-ended questions to get to know them. We'll really try to be consistent with our work to build a great relationship. Next, understanding their goals and aspirations. So here we're going to focus on strengths and what they're wanting to achieve in the long term, but also in the short term. We're also going to explore challenges and barriers. We usually will gently inquire about challenges and barriers, and we'll try to find out, are there any areas where they might feel stuck or progress can't be made due to various factors. We're going to try to identify support systems and resources. So we'll look at any existing supports and see if there are any others we could suggest that would be helpful. We're going to encourage self-reflection and insight. So we'll try to prompt self-reflection, maybe by asking questions, something like, how do you usually cope when things get tough? What strategies have worked for you in managing your mental health? We're also going to develop a recovery plan together. We'll monitor progress on it and adjust as we go. I won't go too much into this because I know Deb's going to talk about that more shortly. And we want to empower and encourage, which I talked about on the previous slide. We're going to aim to use inclusive and person-centered language. We'll tailor our communication based on individual needs. So if a client has any communication difficulties, we'll try to use simpler language. We may also make sure our participant has an interpreter if they need one. For clients with specific cultural or personal preferences, we'll look to adapt our approach to be respectful and relevant to them. And lastly, we'll also maintain flexibility. So we'll want to be adaptable in our approach. So we'll adjust our questions and strategies based on the client's mood and responses during our time with them. And we'll be open to exploring new topics or changing direction as needed. So that wraps up my portion of the webinar. I'd like to bring in my colleague Deb to talk about some more topics.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again. So I'm just going to have we're going to have a little chat about recovery planning. Recovery planning is really a very important part of the collaboration between the NDIS participant and their coach. To do this effectively, it is very important to build rapport with the participant, to get to know them, understand their needs, where they are, and hopes for the future. We always start by asking them about the current situation, what's happening in their lives, what has worked and what hasn't worked, what barriers they encounter in the day-to-day lives. It is very helpful to understand also what their values are and what's important to them so they can create goals later on that will match those values. Once all this is established, then we can start thinking about the goal planning aspect and identify where they would like to start and what goals they would like to start working on to change their lives. How we go about planning is dependent on various factors, such as where the participant is in their own recovery process, the participant's self-awareness and insight into their mental health, and barriers, and as well as their readiness to explore the changes that they would like to make in their lives. Some people have the capacity to engage in this process earlier on. Some people need a bit of longer time to build rapport within the recovery oriented relationship and build a bit of trust with their coach. Since we have a person-centered practice, we always let the participant lead the way on their timing and when they're ready to commence with this process, if at all. this is very important so they can maintain choice and control at all times. Now, depending on the participant's choice again and their readiness, we can work to set up different types of goals. We can set up or help them to set up open goals. Open goals are a bit more general, not as specific, but they're a really good starting point. And they help motivate the participant and help build their confidence. A good example of an open goal would be something that we probably all do at the end of around Christmas and New Year's Eve, which is to say things like, oh, I would like to exercise more next year. So that would be an example of an open goal, and it can start the conversation and start thinking in the direction of goal planning. If the participant is readier and keener to investigate a bit further and become more specific, then we use SMART goals. And SMART goals stand for specific, which is very important, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So I'll give you a couple of examples of some of the goals that would go along with those words and those aspects of SMART goals. So specific would refer to having a specific outcome in mind. So an example of that would be, I will attend a fortnightly psychology therapy session for the next 6 months to help on managing my anxiety and depression. Yes, very specific. Measurable is important because it allows the participant to track the progress of their goals, and it keeps you motivated to see that you're making progress along the way, little by little. That could be an example of that could be, I will do breathing exercises every morning for 5 minutes a day for a month to reduce my stress level. So that could be an example. Achievable. It's always important that the goal that we come up with is achievable. If the goal is too big or not realistic and not accomplishable, then it really sets you up for failure. And we don't want that. We want everyone to feel, we all want to feel that we're capable, and we can make changes in our lives, and we can commit to something and doing it. And we do it, in steps, one step at a time. So that's very important. Relevant, hopefully the participant is wanting to identify goals that are relevant and meaningful in their life, and they're according to their values that they have. Someone maybe who lives with complex mental health concerns, they might want to work on the emotional well-being. So they might say, I would like to spend 20 minutes practicing self-care, an activity that makes me feel that I'm taking care of myself, such as taking a bath or reading or whatever it is that the participant thinks will be helpful to them. And time bound, we all have different types of different goals in our time. Some are short term, medium term, long term, but whenever we're setting a SMART goal, we want to make sure that that we know when, it's time bound. We know when it's could be completed. And it keeps you accountable. So that's very important. An example could be, I would complete an online course on mindfulness within the next 2 months to develop my coping skills and manage my anxiety. So SMART goals are very, very good in providing focus, direction, and they really help in providing, resilience and confidence. Thank you. Okay, so on this slide, you can see some examples of the questions that we ask when we do safety planning. And again, safety planning is also an integral part of our work together with a participant. A good safety plan will always be done in collaboration with a participant. It's not done by a coach, but it's done, the participant completes the plan and we support the process. It always involves having a broader conversation about the participant's mental health to begin with, but then it helps identify risks and to develop strategies to keep them safe during periods of mental health deterioration or periods of crisis. During the process, there's a few things that we want to identify. Any warning signs that the participant might have, thoughts, emotional, physical concerns, behaviors that would signal that the participant is needing additional help, that they might be going in the direction of a mental health deterioration or a crisis. We want to identify, any internal coping strategies or things that a person can do for themselves and by themselves to feel better and to cope during those times of crisis and be able to manage it as much as possible. And then we also discuss how to make their environment safe, because we want everyone needs to be safe in their environment. And if there is a situation where their environment is not safe, then we need to work on making it safe. Then we want to identify key people in the participants' world and lives who can support them during a period of increased need. And they can be informal or formal supports, ideally informal supports such as family members, friends who know them well and they know that they can support them as needed, have a chat, debrief, and that they know them well to know when they need help as well. And also formal support such as NDIS support workers or NDIS-funded supports, including psychologists, GPs, clinicians, AOT, etc. Lastly, we always want to include in the safety plan, make sure that the participant identifies and then has a list of professionals and 24-hour support services, agencies, and phone lines that they would be willing and would have access to contact should they need help at a time that they're not able to get help, and of course emergency services in case of a life-threatening emergency. Safety planning is especially important for people living with mental health concerns. It provides a sense of safety, but it's also very important for people who might have had in the past either multiple hospitalizations due to difficulties with their mental health, or people who might have had experienced suicidal ideation or attempts or other self-harming behaviors, to really mitigate and minimize the possibility of future harm and keep them safe in their environment. It is a very good tool for the participant, and as I said, it provides them with agency and resilience and safety. And we always recommend to the participant, once we do this together, that they have it available in their home environment, or even with them, even in the community, or portions of it that are relevant to them and helpful to them, so they can always refer to them as a tool when they do need it. This is also a very important tool when we collaborate with other supports and agencies, etc. Many times the participant will choose to share some aspects or the full plan with support workers, other providers, friends, family, so they can also collaborate with them and to keep them safe. Okay. Next, please. Okay. What types of coaches do we have at Proveda? So you can have NDIS funds coaches who have either lived experience, learned experience, or both. Lived experience would be somebody who's had their own experience with mental health concerns and recovery, and they utilize those learnings in their practice to support people going similar journeys. If the coach does not have lived experience, they would need to have a minimum of a Cert 4 in mental health or mental health peer support, or to have worked as a paid employment for 2 years minimally with people living with mental health concerns. Okay, what a recovery coach isn't. Sometimes there can be a bit of confusion about what the role of the recovery coach is or is not. I mean, it happens often when a participant is new to the NDIS, or maybe an agency might not be fully across what the role entails. But just to clarify, we're not an emergency and crisis service. We're different from support workers, so we don't support participants with tasks of daily lives, their daily lives. We don't provide transport or community access or therapy or counseling. We're not clinicians, but what we do is we collaborate with other providers and link and participants and with their choice to choose who they would like to work with to address all those their needs. Okay, getting participants in recovery coaching in someone's plan. So as Trent mentioned before, we can only work with people who have a listed disability of mental health diagnosis, whether it's primary, secondary, and if a participant has a listed disability of a psychosocial disability but do not have it on their plan, they could work with their current support coordinator to make a change of circumstances, to request it in their plan, or during the plan review time, they could request it. They could also, if they don't have a support coordinator, they could also contact the NDIA or an LAC to request that be added to their plan. Okay, so we're going to have a couple of case examples just to give you a bit of a narrative of some of the work that would entail when you work with one of our coaches. I think Trent is going to provide with the first example. Thank you.
Alrighty, first case example. So New South Wales Health Assertive Outreach team contacted us to refer a participant with a diagnosis of schizophrenia and substance abuse. This participant rarely left his home. He was isolated from community, had deteriorating physical health, a poor home environment, and was unable to work. He was initially referred to our organisation to support him to gain access to the NDIS. We used to have an old program where we would transition people onto the NDIS. And then the participant went on to choose us to provide support coordination and later psychosocial recovery coaching. So we worked with the participant and the assertive outreach team to help build a support network that addressed some of the key psychosocial issues, mainly by improving his connection to his community with mental health trained support workers assisting him, his physical health by setting goals for walking and bike riding each week, as well as exercise physiology to work on some specific areas of poor mobility. His home environment improved over time with regular cleaning and support workers who actually helped him to build cleaning capacity. He then started to do other things. So he then went on and began to learn a language once per week. He started to take some free community courses on how to use computers. And given that he had goals to work towards and a community to connect with, he filled his time with things that improved his health. The substance use diminished quite drastically. Having these sort of key supports linked in and being consistently contacted by his recovery coach and all of his other supports as well, he was eventually able to build such a strong foundation of well-being that he re-entered the workforce as a taxi driver. And then he went on to save up his own money and travel to Egypt. And now he's saving up to travel to India. So I thought that was a good story. All right, Deb, your case example.
Great, thank you. Okay, so for the second case example, we had a young person, 19 years old, who was referred to us by New South Wales Health in 2022 for psychosocial recovery coaching. They live with quite a few complex concerns: major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and complex PTSD. They had a history of multiple hospitalizations, self-harm, and multiple suicide attempts. They also lived with a very serious eating disorder that was posing extreme, very, very serious risks to their health and to ability to live out in the community, including the strength to mobilize without becoming tired. And this was due to long-term undernourishment. They had a history of homelessness, and they were in transitional housing, waiting for a more permanent home. To begin with, we worked with the participant to identify some of their initial goals and barriers, and collaborated with their existing team. This person had already a team in place, a clinical team. They had already a GP that they were visiting twice per week for medical appointments, a psychologist, special psychologist, a health dietitian, and also a case manager from a housing organization that was supporting them to find appropriate housing in a permanent place. We commenced by creating a support network that they felt comfortable with and was share their values, including trained support workers to assist with the multiple transport appointments that the person had every week in hospital, to assist with shopping, and meal preparation was a key one, as well as helping the person build confidence in domestic tasks at home in their home environment. They were linked to an exercise physiologist to assist with building strength. They needed to do a lot of work to be able to physically build strength during the process of to become healthier, and also, exercise is known to support well-being, emotional well-being, mental health. They were linked also to a mental health trained OT to address psychosocial concerns and make recommendations for some low-cost consumable items that would support the participant in the community. One example of that was noise-canceling headphones to decrease anxiety and overwhelm by being in the community. This person would become very overwhelmed when they experience symptoms of PTSD out in the community with a lot of people around them. Once their health started to improve, we moved on to their goal to increase the informal support network. This person didn't have family support, and they really wanted to create their own community and find their people, make friends, and increase community participation. So once they were strong enough to do that, then we collaborated to find some activities that would be appropriate for them and that would be enjoyable and give them an opportunity to meet people. And some of the things that they chose was a trauma-informed yoga class and a roller skating class. The roller skating class was a huge turning point and very, very helpful in this person's recovery. So in having the regular support, all the NDIS supports and services, and regular checks in with the recovery coach has really allowed this person to make huge, significant changes in the recovery and really create a life that they're actually hopeful to live. At the moment, the participant has been in remission from their eating disorder, probably coming on to 2 years, and they have not engaged in any self-harming behavior or suicidal attempts or hospitalizations for over 2 years. This participant is currently, actually, they just finished this last week the diploma of mental health, and they are starting to look into employment. So, okay, making a referral. So if anybody, if anyone's interested in making or needs to make a referral, you can go to proveda.com.au, contact, and just make a referral. There's another, next please. I think this is what it looks like if you go into the website and try to make a referral. So you can complete that and somebody will get back to you.
Thanks, Deb.
You're welcome.
Hi everyone, it's Aisha here. As Candice and Rebecca mentioned, we do have the question box. So if you've got anything you'd like to pop in now, please feel free. I've also got a couple of frequently asked questions, which I'm just going to go through. in relation to the Psychosocial Recovery Coaching Program. So we did discuss briefly, but in terms of becoming eligible for the Psychosocial Recovery Coaching Program, you need to have been accepted onto the scheme with either a primary or a secondary psychosocial disability, and it would need to be requested in a plan review to receive that funding. Another commonly asked question that we receive is, how is the Proveda Psychosocial Recovery Program different from other programs in the community? Well, Proveda has been providing recovery coaching since the NDIS launched its service. We're not affiliated with any other services in the area and really pride ourselves on being impartial in our service delivery. One of the best things about our coaches at Proveda are that we all have an in-depth knowledge of NDIS support coordination. So we really will help understand and set up your plan, link to services of your choice, and support you to prepare for your plan reviews, which can be quite complex at times. In terms of the area geographically that Psychosocial Recovery Searching covers, we cover predominantly the Northern Sydney area. However, we do have participants in other areas outside of this region as well that we work with. So what do I do if I'm interested in accessing the Psychosocial Recovery Service? Please discuss with your support coordinator, local area coordinator, or NDIS planner to check if you may be eligible and acquire psychosocial recovery coaching funding in your plan. If you already have the funding, please feel free to go to the website or give us a call to make a referral or find out more information. So a question we're also often asked is, what is the difference between support coordination and recovery coaching? So support coordination primarily helps NDIS participants to navigate their plan, connect with relevant and appropriate service providers, and manage these supports. Psychosocial recovery coaching really goes a step further and focuses specifically on assisting individuals with psychosocial disabilities to really build capacity, manage their health, their mental health, and achieve recovery goals. I'm just going to have a little look. So there's no questions currently. So again, here's a question. You mentioned at the beginning you have a range of services, including things like mental health. Can you tell us why having these services help you deliver a better psychosocial recovery service? Deb, do you want to have a go at answering that one?
So some of the, when we're talking about the mental health services that we offer, oh yes, I am. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was muted or not. That we have at Proveda, the ones that were mentioned before are the hoarding and squalor support, supporting people with tendencies of hoarding and squalor in their home environment, also the suicide prevention program, and also the dementia advisory program. So we actually feel that those programs can be really helpful, and they do support us and collaborate with what we can offer at Proveda. In fact, I would say that one of the things to add to what Aisha said before that supports us and or makes us a bit different is that the fact that although we are impartial, we do have other offerings within Proveda that would not have any charge to the NDIS participants, but will support them. We have had in the past participants who might have been part of the suicide prevention program through the way back, and they might have needed support to go into to have an NDIS plan, and that they have chosen to work with us. We have people in the community or people with it that we've supported that have needed further support, and they might have chosen to participate in that program. We also have participants who have been involved in the Hoarding and Squalor program who had benefited from our support, and vice versa. And I would say that the other thing that is very helpful is that, excuse me, we have other programs, for example, the Belong Club, or the volunteer program that we also utilize quite a bit. I happen to have some NDIS participants I support who actually, in addition to having all the NDIS supports, are also supported by Proveda community volunteers. They've requested support outside of the NDIS program, and we've been able to find support from volunteers. I even have two of my current clients who wanted to become volunteers, and they're actually helping other people in the community. And the Belong Club is also a really good example of how we can collaborate with other departments and programs. This is a free program that Proveda created, I would say, about 3 years ago, to support people living in the community and give and create community. Many of older clients attend the services. Many NDIS participants do. They are free of charge for everyone involved, and they are a combination of programs that take place online. They could be even a movement class, or a quiz quiz show that happens every week, or a book club. And they've also they do things in person, such walks around Narrabeen Lake, etc. So we actually are able to collaborate, use the resources that we have at Proveda to collaborate to make the coaching program successful and have options. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Deb. We've just had another question pop into the question box. The question is around, is there any access to those without NDIS? I'm happy to sort of answer that one. Participants need to be on the NDIS scheme, obviously, to be able to access psychosocial recovery coaching or support coordination services. Proveda did used to offer a specific NDIS transition program to support people to assess their eligibility to enter the scheme. Trent and I actually worked on that program for a number of years. That program's no longer in operation, so Proveda does need to predominantly outsource NDIS transition support. The Wayback service does provide NDIS transition support within Proveda. Otherwise, we often outsource to services such as Mission Australia or MyDSS or LACs for specific NDIS transition support nowadays. So hopefully that answers that question. There's another question in the box. Do you offer services via online only with the participant, or must it be face-to-face? I might actually ask Trent to answer that. He's been providing coaching services for quite a few years now. So Trent, over to you. Do we offer services via online only with the participant, or must it be face-to-face?
We do. So we're happy to engage with the participants in any way they prefer. So if they prefer online, face-to-face, over the phone, even if they want to just text or email, I've got a lot of clients that like to text and email. We can always do it that way. So yeah, happy to be flexible and adjust our service to whatever the mode of communication is for the participant.
And I think it's fair to say, Trent, that recovery coaching definitely focuses a lot on that mentoring and face-to-face intervention, if that's what's comfortable for the participant. And, you know, I often sort of see Trent and Deb out in the field, honestly, most days, conducting client visits. So yeah, it's a really, really great service in terms of the hours that are built into the plan to allow for that more intensive time to be spent as opposed to support coordination. Thanks, Trent.
If you have any questions offline, you can go to recovery coaching at proveda.com.au That would be great. We'd love to hear from you.